Welcome to another episode of Endpoint Facts and Glitches. Let's get to the point. In this episode, we're covering another fact: threat level. In multiplayer, enemies have a set mechanic on how they choose their primary target, and it's not as random as you may think it is. In fact, this mechanic can be easily manipulated to your advantage. Here are the timestamps for each part of the video. Feel free to skip to any part using the video chapter feature. Threats is a secret hidden value which can be found in players. This value is impossible to see normally, but possible to see with the help of exploit tools. Since I'm a scripter, I can generate this GUI here for us to view the current threats of my character. You can see the threat value is currently at 0.5. This is the default value. To manipulate enemies, we have to modify this value. Changing the value is surprisingly easy. All that matters is the gun that you're equipping at the moment. Some of you may already be thinking the larger the gun, the better the threat is. But that's not always the case. This is why I put this GUI here for you to see. By the way, when I mention the word equip, what I mean by that is the gun you are currently holding in your hands, not the guns that are on your back or sides. Now I will show you all the threat value of every equipable weapon in the game. Starting from the UP9, the S97, the MM20, the 48 DMCS, the K45, the CHA, the CBRC, the Raven, the F57, the Thumper, and the Sawblade. Here is a table ranking off the weapons threats from least to most. Another thing people don't know about is that barrel attachments can also affect the threat value. Well, the only barrels that can do that are the suppressor and the flash hider. The suppressor reduces the threat value of the gun by 25%, while the flash hider reduces the threats by 15%. The rest of the attachments won't have any effects on the threat value. Obviously, I won't leave Akimbo Pistols behind, and since I've just mentioned it, you will now be wondering about it. The threats for Akimbo Pistols is simple to calculate. It only counts the pistol on your right hand. The pistol on your left hand just doesn't count. Now it's time to use this threat value for something. This value is used mostly in multiplayer LoL. When a group of enemies spawn, the group will select the primary target randomly, but with a twist. A player with a higher threat is more likely to be selected than a player with a lower threat. That is the part where you can abuse this mechanic. Let's say you're doing Iron Man Legend Mixed. Your team consists of 1 Infiltrator and 2 Juggernauts. The goal here is to make sure the enemies don't select the Infiltrator as their primary target. In order to achieve the goal, the Infiltrator has to not equip any weapon in their hands to get the threat value to 0.5. The 2 Juggernauts have to equip a weapon to get the threat value at least higher than 1. When an enemy squad spawn, they will check the threat value of each player, and will most likely select the Juggernauts and not the Infiltrator. Another use for this is when you're stalling while the other players are doing objectives. The goal here is to get the enemies to select you as the primary target, so they move to you and not the others. It's best that you hold a weapon with the max threat value, since you need the enemies to select you. The Thumper would be the best choice for this, since it has the most threat value and is lighter than the Sawblade. To get the enemies to favor you even more, you can try to convince the others to not equip any weapon to lower their threat value. You may be surprised, but that's still not all the uses for threat value. When an enemy sees 2 or more players in the sight line, they will target the person with the most threats. Here, you can see the other player is holding a Thumper, and I'm equipping nothing in my hands. The enemies will keep shooting at the other player no matter how close I go to them. Last thing I want to say, you won't have this GUI. Hence, I recommend you master this by memorizing the threat values for the common weapons. Thank you very much for watching. Join me next time when we're covering the next episode, Pathfindings and Waypoints. Until then, farewell.